Hi everyone, welcome back. So this particular lesson is about the third very important pillar of the British rule in India, which is the police. As the slide indicates, we'll be talking about some very interesting stuff, such as a place called Sleemnabad in Madhya Pradesh and what is its relation with Thuggi and the police system. We'll talk about Faujdars, what was this institution all about. We'll talk about the CBI and CID, how they came about, and then the Indian Imperial Police, the higher police services, so to speak. This part was actually taken from the material provided on the official upsc.gov.in website. And here let me reiterate, it cannot be emphasized enough that when you're referring to online sources, try to go for official ones. They'll always be more authentic and useful. Okay. So without much ado, let's go on to the story of Colonel Sleeman. So let's talk about Colonel Sleeman. Colonel William Sleeman, he served as the founder and the first head of the anti-thug and anti-dacoit department under William Bentinck. Now what was this anti-thug department? If you've seen the film Thugs of Hindustan, as the name indicates, they have shown how thugs used to operate, and Thuggi was a huge menace in India. It was what was particular about it is that there were these people, thugs, who used to target people traveling on highways, and it was said that their only weapon was a silk handkerchief, and they used to use that to loot people and kill them. This had been going on for plenty of years in India in the districts related to the highways, including Katni district where Sleemnabad is now located. And British officials before Sleeman had not been able to do much about it for various socio-cultural reasons, and also perhaps the fact that they could not come up with a good enough plan. Sleeman, on the other hand, he gathered intelligence about the operations of these thugs, and then when William Bentinck gave him the go-ahead, that's when he executed it. And it is said that during his 20 years of posting there, he eliminated all the gangs of thugs. And you can read more about this in Ghost Stories from the Raj, which is a book by Ruskin Bond. It has very interesting accounts of this. And Sleeman was also revered by the people there because he was quite sympathetic of the cause of farmers and whoever were being troubled by moneylenders and zamindars. So it is said that he in fact bought 96 acres of land and he settled farmers in that piece of land, which is when it got to be known as Sleemnabad. And till today, there is a temple there where an earthen lamp is burnt. A diya is basically burnt or lit every year in memory of Colonel Sleeman. So that's quite a heartwarming story. Now, what happened to this department though? So this department in 1902, the All India Police Commission suggested that it should be converted into a central criminal intelligence department. In 1904, a new department came about. In 1917, the word criminal was dropped. In 1920, finally, the Central Intelligence Bureau was established. Now, what you do need to remember is that earlier under the Mughals and the Nawabs, there were people called Faujdars. Now, these people who were positioned as Faujdars, they were in charge of judicial and policing functions. During Warren Hastings' time, Faujdars were initially given powers to police the area, and zamindars were asked to help them. But the zamindars were not very happy with the free reign of powers that had been given to Faujdars, and therefore they decided to withdraw their support. So Faujdars themselves, they were quite weak, the position was quite weak, and no one really used to care about what a Faujdar wanted to do. And it grew such that Faujdari was ultimately considered to be an exercise in futility and was abolished on April 6, 1781, except at Hooghly. Then what happened is that European judges of Diwani courts were given the power and responsibility of catching public offenders and committing them with the darogas of the closest Faujdari or criminal court. And zamindars were also authorized to arrest offenders with special permission of the Governor General and the Council. So now you can see there are a lot of people who are operating simultaneously or having concurrent jurisdiction. Hastings also provided a number of watchmen and barkandas to assist European magistrates to perform police duties. But this system did not last long. When Cornwallis came to India, he preferred a policing system where the Europeans held control. And the Nizamat court was then, it was decided that it would be presided over by the governor. Lord Cornwallis in 1791, he relieved the zamindars of their police functions and established a regular police force to maintain law and order even in rural areas. He established a system of circles or thanas, each of which would be headed by a daroga or a thanedar who was to be an Indian, and a district superintendent of police would be heading the police organization in a district. In some areas, the village headman continued to perform the duty of internal security. Regulation 22 of 1793 was instrumental in introducing changes, and the police were now considered to be under the sole charge of officers of the government who were specially appointed to that trust. So it was no longer helter-skelter as was happening before, not several people doing all kinds of mixed functions. The police administration was now directly under the East India Company. When Lord Mayo came, he appointed a superintendent of police for each division and also spies or Goyendas for help. But the problem with this whole spy business was that it is said that they themselves engaged in a lot of unlawful activities, often in consonance and in close coordination with the police. So the whole objective had been to make the police system more robust, but the opposite was happening, so that wasn't good. William Bentinck, he abolished the office of Superintendent of Police, and the collector or magistrate was to head the police force in his jurisdiction, and the commissioner in each division was to act as the SP. So the burden was now on the collector or magistrate, which was proving to be a bit much. So in 1860, a police commission had been established, and this led to the promulgation of the Indian Police Act of 1861. Then there was a Police Reforms Commission in 1903 under Sir Andrew Fraser. He was during Lord Curzon's time. Here is when the Department of Criminal Intelligence, or the DCI, was attached to the central government, the government of India, and for the provinces there were CIDs in all provinces of British India. Now a bit about the superior or higher police forces, what was happening there. So before independence, the superior police officers were all part of the Indian Imperial Police, and they were appointed by the Secretary of State via competitive exam. The first open competition for this service was held in England in June 1893, but the notable fact is that entry for Indians into the Imperial Police opened only after 1920. And in 1921, exams for the service were conducted both in England and in India. If you remember in the lesson on the civil services, we also pointed out that the fact that the exam continued to be conducted only in London for a long period of time before changes were introduced, that used to be a hindrance for a lot of candidates who were otherwise eligible and qualified to sit for the exam. And lastly, what you need to know is that the Indianization of the police was quite slow, despite recommendations of the Islington and the Lee commissions. If you have time and you watch the lesson till the end, perhaps you could comment about what these recommendations of the Islington and Lee commission were. It's always important to remember the names of these commissions, because you could get a question such as what was the Lee commission associated with, and they would give you 4 options. They would say police, they would say educational reforms, they would say agricultural reforms, and they would say to discuss handling of the famine, and you need to know the right answer then. So this is what it was. And you should also know that till 1931, Indians were appointed against 20% of posts of SPs, but because there was non-availability of suitable European candidates in the years to come, more Indians came to be appointed to the Imperial Police, the Indian Police, from 1939 onwards. So that is when radical change happened. So yeah, I mean, remember to, of course, supplement this with the other material that you may come across, and I hope this was useful for you. Thank you.